so devastating. Like,
And you've
I,
experienced
I
that. You've experienced it yourself. Like you are. I've known you 20 years, man, and you are someone who is you are resilient and you are strong-minded, and you know you're just not a victim at all. But
mm,
it affected you. It affected you emotionally, and it affected you mentally,
yeah,
right?
there was, how long ago was that? Probably like 4 weeks ago, where
Yeah. I
I
got a
was,
I got a phone call.
I
I got a phone call from Jason, and Jason wanted
yeah,
to talk. Yeah.
yeah, and I just hit not rock bottom, but I just had this. I can't even explain it really. Just almost, I think the only way of explaining it is a mental breakdown. Like,
Yeah.
I got to a stage where all that had just built up, and I felt that I didn't have any control of my life. I wasn't able to see my family,
Yeah.
and my dad's on his last few years of life. So, or if that, so it felt really hard to know that well, I'm trying to protect someone who really doesn't have that much. It doesn't make any sense to me. And I know that that we're possibly like leaving Victoria as well. So, you know, I just wanted to do all this stuff like with my family, and I wasn't able to do it, and not being able to live our life um, because we were a threat of some kind. It was quite bizarre, and yeah, it just really got to me. And I literally was, I would say, for a good half hour, I was uncontrollably crying, like
Wow.
just sobbing, like I just had enough. I just was over it, and um, and I thought, oh my god, I don't know what's going on here. But after releasing all that stuff, and it was a combination as well of we all cooped up in this house, and
Mm.
in that morning, I think the trigger point was when I just couldn't be bothered doing anything. I just was like, I'm done. I can't even think right now. And Annie asked me for my help with something, and I was like, nah, I can't be bothered. And then I felt like I was letting it down, and just snowballed into this whole.
Mm.
I mean, that was just like a thing that kind of triggered the overarching sort of
Oh,
emotional state that I was in.
there was already a culmination of disappointment and depression and all that existing there. It just needed that spark, and that
Yeah,
was the
so,
spark.
and I literally rang, I was Beyond Blue or Lifeline or whatever it was, to kind of be like, I just need someone to talk to vent it out, because there was so much I could talk to Annie about it, because she's also going through the same thing that I'm going
Yeah.
through. So, and I would say that I felt helpless. I wouldn't say that I was suicidal, but I would say that I was thinking about, what's the point? Like, what's the point
Mm.
of all this world
Mm.
that we live in? And then I had a session with a counsellor who me and Annie met with earlier this year, and she was fantastic. I really connected with her, so I thought I'd connect with her again. And
Cool.
it was great to just talk to someone about, like, dude, you're not an outlier here. This is very common to what people are living through. You shouldn't feel like this is odd or weird. You and she's like, you need to think about your personal situation even more. Like, even compared, she's like, you've just had a baby.
Correct.
Lost your father-in-law.
That's
You're
right.
dealing stuff with your own father.
Yes.
You've got no control. You've got no connection with people. You're
Hmm.
a very highly connected person. That's how your
Yes.
personality thrives. So you almost you kind of understand what a caged animal would feel like. I mean, it sounds dramatic, but that's
Well,
kind of what
it's
we were
essentially what's
for.
happening.
Mm,
It's essentially what's happening, isn't it?
yeah.
Like
So,
yeah.
what I would say is that that outlet that I did have was good, because after that I felt great. I felt like
Yeah.
it was like an emotional, like I've never felt that way. The closest I've ever felt like that
Yeah.
before was kind of when we lost our friend Andrew, my best
Yeah.
friend at the stage.
I remember
Um,
I remember you saying that to me when you called, and I thought to myself, it's interesting because you called it. You called it, and we even talked about it on this show when we were talking about COVID and keeping everyone protected and all that. And you would say to me, yeah, but Sal, like, what about the mental health implications on society? Like, no one's talking about that. And, you know, you called it. And so, you know, just to give our listeners some context, Andrew wasn't just a friend of Jason's. Andrew was like a brother, and, you know, like a nephew to your parents, and like a brother to you, and like a legit brother to you and Dave. You guys, even before you lived together, you had that dynamic. You were super close, and he passed away. He was gone way too soon, and you
Ironically, from a virus as well.
From a virus.
Yeah,
He passed from a virus. That was horrible when we went through that. That was horrible. But you said to me in this recent relapse that you've had, you said that you liken the feeling to that, like it was that strong. And I think we need to give some context here, because the I don't like to say a mental breakdown, but the emotional and mental reaction that you had, you said you hadn't felt that since Andrew died. That's strong. And we're talking about someone like yourself who is a strong, resilient, like I'm saying, like, you're not someone who suffers from mental illness, or not that, I mean, that's another discussion we'll get into, but you don't typically have those problems, and even you were affected to that degree. And I think it's important that we discuss this, because, you know, we live in Australia, and we are really, really blessed, so blessed that we have 10 sessions that we can use a year. The government gives us 10 sessions a year. There's talk of that increasing next year. And I tell you, since I was, like, I'm 44 now, since I was probably 23, 22, 23, there hasn't been a year that's gone by that I haven't used all my 10. Like, and even if things are going great, I still use every last one. I feel like it's my responsibility to myself.
You cash them in.
No, well, look, I feel like it's not only my responsibility to myself, I feel like it's my responsibility to my husband and my kids, that my mental health is in check. Because I think as society we're getting better, but I don't think we're there yet. I don't think we're there. I don't think we have a good enough understanding about what this monster is and how it can impact human beings and those around them. Like, it's really important, a really important conversation.